Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So I've finally done it. I have achieved my dream Iron Twins team, and yes, that was completed with the pull and build for Lord Champfort. Now, I know for a long time, a lot of people were wondering, why was Lord Champfort on my wish list? I think he was like number 5, number 4, kind of floating around there. Eventually, I kicked him off to number 6, but then I got him. So maybe there's some lesson to learn there. I should kick everyone off my wish list. But anyways, yes, Lord Champfort is finally on my account. So we're going to do a little bit of a showcase for him, but mostly just the one area where I plan to use him, and I do use him now, is in the Iron Twins. So we'll go over that team, and of course I'll show you the builds and whatnot. So the Iron Twins Fortress. Now at this point I do acknowledge that this boss is kind of solved. Like, we have a bunch of different variations of compositions that can work, mainly some Geomancer, Aox type stuff, some block damage type stuff with the triple Pain Keeper. So I'm not out here pretending that I've been super innovative in coming up with this composition, but no, I just wanted to highlight it because it's the team that I've always wanted to build for the longest time, and I finally have the champion to do it, so I figured I'd share that experience with you guys. So without further ado, this is the team. We have Lord Champfort in the mix, we have Ninja, we have Owella, we have Python, and then we have Lady Mikage. Now this is technically version 2 of the comp because they did nerf the boss maybe sometime last year, so the stat requirements came down a good bit, and thus I didn't really need as much protection and support as I used to, and so I went with a more aggressive strategy. And again, we'll talk about each of the roles on this team. But the elephant in the room that I want to address is, of course, you can build a team if you're endgame with Newts and Mariuses and whatnot, but for me, building or beating content with Newt and Marius exclusively is extremely boring, and so I like to highlight and use different teams other than that. I'll sacrifice a little bit of time, we're talking 30 seconds worth of time, but I'd rather build more fun teams and have it be slightly more enjoyable than building just a Marius destroy everything kind of composition. That's the primary reason you're not seeing any enemy max HP in this particular team, although that definitely could be the case depending on how you want to approach it if you wanted to build this team for yourself. So as I mentioned earlier, the star of this team is going to be Lord Champfort, and we are taking full use of his passive here that essentially whenever he is attacked, he'll place decreased speed on the enemy. So it's just free mitigation of the boss's passive, where he will get a bunch of turn meter when you don't have decreased speed, or when he does not have decreased speed on himself. So no matter what, even when he cleanses himself, he does an attack which will hit Lord Champfort, which will then place decreased speed back on him. So it basically stays up 100% of the time, outside of, I guess, a rogue 3% resist here and there. But on top of that, he's also pretty useful. Decrease attack, decrease accuracy. So if you're trying to resist some of the Iron Brand stacks on your more high resistance people, decrease accuracy is going to make that more helpful. Decrease attack, of course, makes you take less damage, and then decrease defense on the A1. Why not? To do a little bit more damage for your DPS. So speaking of DPS, the DPS for this team is going to be Ninja, who I did recently rebuild. He's now in 6-piece Merciless. Again, I'll highlight the builds a bit later, and of course the 6-star that I pulled in the last Soulstone summoning session. So he's also awakened. So the thing is, that doesn't affect the success rate of the run, but it does affect the speed of the run, because he is ignoring a lot of defense with the 6-star Crushing Rend on top of the Merciless set. But that's just more of a time constraint, less of a feasibility constraint. But nonetheless, he is our primary DPS, and again, this could be your Newt or your Marius if you wanted to build this style of team. But if you're running Newt and Marius, you probably don't need as much support as we have on this squad. The third slot on this team is just a high resistance support champion, ideally a cleanser and a reviver. You want someone with block debuffs for reasons we'll get to a little bit later. But Python, he's been in the team since forever, just to make sure that if anyone dies, he picks them back up, and he's tanky enough that he basically never ever dies. And then the two other slots are what I will call flex spots. They just can kind of be whatever you want them to be. They can be more DPS if you want to be even more aggressive, or they can be more support in the case of what I'm going for here. So the first flex spot is going to be Owella on the squad. So she's doing a couple of jobs. She is, one, giving increased resistance and turn meter fill, so she's helping us stay ahead of the boss. That also helps my high resistance champions, as again we'll see that in the builds, but she helps them resist any of the Iron Brand stacks. Don't have to worry about that. She's also a buff extender with a pretty decently chunky heal, 30% of their max HP. And then I don't really care about the A1, but she could place decreased speed, but she's not built with any accuracy, as we'll see later. But one of the main things is that whenever your allies lose 50% or more of their max HP from a single hit, she places a continuous heal on them, which is just nice, which of course can be extended if she happens to do that here. And I believe she can also she can only activate it if ult 10 of the shells on the same team, which is unfortunate. But yeah, she can extend it with the A2, which can be nice on top of the heal there. So you can just get a lot of free continuous heals when you don't die, of course, on your team, and that can help them stay topped up whenever they come back around to their turn. And then the 5th slot is another flex spot, and because I'm running Ninja and I wanted to be, like I said, more aggressive with the strategy, I have Lady Mikage in the mix. She stays in form 1, so we get the ally attack, and then also more buff extension as well as debuff extension. So that's the squad. Let's go ahead and see this team in action. I mean, as you might be able to predict, it's pretty darn straightforward. There's no gimmick here with this team, but we do kick things off with the ally attack. I do want him to initially start as soon as possible. I guess Mikage is going ham with a relentless set here, but I do want him to go first so that he places decreased speed on himself, and that way we don't have to worry about basically it coming off. And I purposely wanted to do this on today, which was a force day, because this is of course the worst affinity for Ninja as well as Lord Champfort. So this team can work across all affinities. Obviously they're going to weak hit more against force, but that's not the biggest deal, just because eventually we'll get it down. Ninja, you can run them anti-affinity across a lot of different, or in a lot of different areas. But the main reason that I wanted the buff extenders in here is that we basically have block debuffs up the entire time, so we never have to worry about the boss placing the decreased attack, decreased defense, decreased crit rate, decreased crit damage, and any of that stuff. He can still place the Iron Brand stacks, but we don't really care about that as much. And the good thing about this particular team as well is that we do so much damage to the boss that by the time we get to the point where he's low HP and doing the big smack, we've barely built up any of the Iron Brand stacks, so it doesn't really hurt that much. You can see on Ninja, I think he's at like 8 or something. Lord Champfort's at like 4, Mikage's at 10. So even by the time we get here, he's just not going to do a ton of damage. He's not going to wipe us. So it's pretty darn straightforward. But as we saw there, every time the boss hits us, he places decreased speed on himself. You don't have to worry about that part of the passive. He's just always going to keep it on himself, thankfully. And then we just DPS him down with Ninja in terms of raw damage, but also the HP burn activation. And then every once in a while, I do have Brimstone here on Lord Champfort. It usually gets cleansed off because the run is so fast, but every once in a while it does proc, which can make the run a little bit faster. Ideally, he'd be like 5-star awakened or something to have the irremovable version of that, but beggars can't be choosers. But yeah, that's the composition. It's pretty darn straightforward, and you can see here we just got a PR, which is fantastic. Yes, we didn't weak hit as much, but I would say on force affinity, it's anywhere between, I want to say 80 seconds to 90 seconds on average, and then when I'm running it on any other affinity, it's closer to 50 to 60 seconds, so under a minute in most cases when it's a positive affinity matchup. So it's a pretty fast team, so it's not a 3-minute slog with the Geomancer and stuff like that. So I like it. It's just this team is a lot more aggressive, of course, than previous iterations, and it's obviously taking advantage of Ninja and his power level. But yeah, it's just the team I've always wanted to build, centered around Lord Champfort and the fact that he basically one-man army can keep decreased speed up on the boss without having to attack. That is the main thing. You don't have to worry about weak hits either. It's just on the passive, and it's also exclusively when you are attacked, which still synergizes well with when he cleanses himself and attacks your team. He will still place the decreased speed back on himself. So as promised, let's go through the builds on these champions, starting off with the star of the show, at least in my opinion, Lord Champfort. He's in a Guardian set, and this was the plan for the longest time, to put him in Guardian gear, because he is of course HP based, so he's fairly tanky comparatively speaking, even though he's not fully maxed out, and he's not fully mastered yet either. But I wanted to start running the team as soon as possible, and I could not wait for mastery, so here we are. But yeah, he's in a Guardian set with some perception. You do need a reasonable amount of accuracy. 400 and something is definitely kind of in the ballpark. 475 I think is what you actually need, somewhere around there. But total stats here: 77,000 on the HP, 2,700 on the defense, 212 on the speed, and then 500 on the accuracy, which is kind of essentially where you need it to be. So he can land his debuffs. Most importantly, he can land the decreased speed. But the Guardian gear is just to protect Ninja, so he takes a little bit less damage. I guess everyone on the team takes a little bit less damage, and again, he's tanky, so he can kind of soak up the damage. And again, we kill the boss so quickly that by the time we get to the less than 40% HP, he's not really killing anyone, unless we just get unlucky with a bunch of weak hits, which can happen and has happened. I have seen it. In terms of the he is fully booked. I should mention that you do have to book the passive. I think the 1-turn cooldown is for the shield he placed on himself, but I think the decreased speed will happen no matter what when he's attacked. But yeah, as I mentioned, he has no masteries at the moment, but the plan for masteries is, as you might guess, a pretty standard debuffer route. So we're going to come down the offense tree, the left hand side ending on War Master, because he is a PvE champion, and then we're going to hug the right side of the support tree, coming down to Sniper to increase the chance of placing placing decreased defense on the A1, and then Master Hexer to extend the duration of the debuffs that he does already place. Next up, we have Oella, who's just in like speed and speed and stone skin, or I guess a resistance set if you want to think of it that way, two-piece resistance. But yeah, I just built her fast with high resistance, so it's nothing crazy about her build. A little bit of broken set as well. But total stats here: 75,000 on the HP, 3,300 on the defense, 283 on the speed, and then 551 on the resistance. This is where you definitely want to be if you want to consistently resist anything the boss is going to do. On top of the fact, or I guess before the fact that you consider that we're also running increased resistance on this team, which is kind of just doubling down on what she can already do. So in terms of the masteries, or I guess I should mention she's also booked. I do have the Nourish Blessing on her, so the power or potency of continuous heals that she places with her passive are slightly higher. I think it's only a 1-star, so 5%. It increases the value of the continuous heals by 5%, so it's minor, but hey, every little bit of healing might keep you alive. And then for the masteries here, she's not attacking that much, as you might have seen, because her A2 and her A3 aren't attacks, they're just pure buffing abilities, so she really only hits on the A1 every once in a while. So War Master is not really going to do all that much, but you still could go that route if you wanted to. But I wanted to index more into the support tree and the defense tree, so we're picking up a lot of the tankiness stuff on the defense side, coming down to Unshakable to get even more resistance, and then we're hugging the entirety of the left-hand side for all of this healing-based type masteries, and of course ending on lasting gifts as well. Next up, we have my PvE Pythian, as I mentioned, the super tank who never ever dies. He's in a regen set. He's been in this set for a very, very long time. I used to use him in the arena as well, side note, but mostly just PvE at this point. But total stats on him, nearly 100,000 on the HP, 3,700 on the defense, 255 on the speed, and then 591 on the resistance. So again, same logic as Oella. He has high enough resistance on his own that he should not get debuffed at all by the boss, and that is augmented by the fact that we have increased resistance on the team as well. He is fully booked, and I have Life Harvest on him, which is again kind of more so when I used to use him a lot more in the arena. Now I don't even know what really I would use. Maybe Miracle Heal would make a little bit of sense depending on the content, but digress. Same logic is that he does attack more than Oella, so you could get away with War Master, but I wanted to index more into the defensive and healing type stuff in terms of mastery. So the defense tree, a lot of the tankiness stuff, notably Shadow Heal as well, Unshakable for the resistance, Retribution for the counterattack, so he can heal whenever he does that, but then all the healing stuff and the support tree lasting gifts as well, and then Spirit Haste because of course he is a reviver. Next up we have my rebuilt and super powered or supercharged ninja. He is now in 6-piece Merciless and then the 1-piece of Feral. So the Merciless banner is definitely what helped us complete the build. Granted, I probably could have made the 6 pieces with the accessories here, but note there's a lot of 5-star gear, so my Merciless gear is not crazy, and you'll see that in the stats here. So this is not a super cracked out ninja despite being 6-star awakened, but nonetheless he does the job as we saw. But 45,000 on the HP, 6k on the attack, 221 on the speed, full crit rate, 316 on the crit damage, and then 462 on the accuracy. Once again, in that ballpark, the 450 470 ish range is enough to land your debuffs against the Iron Twins up to stage 15. And then for the books, he is booked. Blessing we already talked about, but Crushing Rend, he just ignores a lot more defense on every single hit when he's going against bosses specifically, so he just does a lot more damage on top of the ignored defense of the 6-piece Merciless set, on top of it, and including the benefit of the mini reflex set aspect of the Merciless set as well, which is pretty useful. He used to be in Relentless for anyone who was curious, so now I don't have to worry about extra turns and him running out the buffs in this particular team, so he will always stay protected under block debuffs with our double buff extension composition. For the masteries, PvE, as you might expect, offense tree coming down the left-hand side, coming down to War Master, and picking up a little bit of damaging stuff along the way, and then the support tree picking up most of the accuracy stuff, but then ending on Sniper and Master Hexer. Sniper for the A1, decreased defense, Master Hexer for, I guess, all of his debuffs. And then lastly, we have my rebuilt, repurposed Mikage, who is in speed and relentless with 1 piece of feral and double reaction. So she is my arena build, but I did rebuild her recently. She used to be just kind of like in speed gear, more or less, speed and accuracy, or speed and perception gear, but I repurposed her into relentless because I've seen a lot of relentless Mikages in live arena, and it's very, very devastating when she could go from a buff strip right into a stun. But of course we just used her in form 1 for this particular fight, so she's just spamming extra ally attacks and extra buff extension. So total stats on her: 84,000 on the HP, 3,300 on the defense, 312 on the speed, and then 549 on the accuracy. Of course she doesn't really need to land any debuffs in this particular particular fight, but you do need accuracy to extend the debuffs on the boss, and so that is helpful for that purpose. But again, the accuracy in this case is more so for the arena. She is fully booked, as you might expect. She's one of the free mythical. I do have her more in an arena type thing where she's in temporal chain, so ideally she gets to cut in sometimes, cut in and buff strip and or stun by cutting in. How many more times can I say cutting in? But in terms of the mastery, is more arena focused once again. So the support tree coming down and getting all the accuracy stuff, ultimately ending on Eagle Eye for more accuracy, going through Master Hexer, and the defense tree. This is my anti-Siffy approach, as I like to call it. So you're coming down the resistance, but you're splitting into these the little bit of the healing thing, and then a little bit of improved parry, but mainly wisdom of battle, so that you don't necessarily get perma-slept by an enemy Siffy. You'll have block debuffs proc 30% of the time, which never happens, but of course, it procs every time when you're the enemy. I digress. But Harvest Despair, we do want that leech potentially. This did come in handy in Hard Mode Faction Wars for that leech mission for Shadowkin. So having her place the stun and place the leech helped me get that quest done. And then of course, Cycle of Revenge, more turn meter, help her cut in, and then the Retribution she can counterattack, especially in Form 2, which is in a sleep on the A1, which can be very, very debilitating and very, very devastating. So yeah, there you have it. This is my new Iron Twins team across all of the affinities, and this is definitely the reason why I had Lord Champfort on my wish list specifically for this one area of the game. Like I've said in a few videos here and there, I am definitely in the end game, and so building one champion for one specific area is definitely within my wheelhouse. So I'm not necessarily saying that this is what you should do if you do have Lord Champfort. It kind of depends where you are in your progression, but if you do have him, then you can add him to whatever version or iteration of Iron Twins you have, and his passive works absolute wonders as far as keeping the boss controlled and contained, and not just going crazy with a bunch of extra turns because you don't have decreased speed, or he removes it from himself. I will note, however, that this is basically the only area in the game where I ever plan to use Lord Champfort, so keep that in mind if you do choose to use him on your account. This is basically his one use case. But anyways, let me know in the comment section down below, what is your current Iron Twins team, assuming you can run all the way up to stage 15? Are you faster than my team with the sub-minute peak run with some other iteration of, Newt Marius or some other combinations of Geomancer block damage type shenanigans? And let me know if this has inspired you to break your Lord Champfort if you happen to have him out of the vault, because he might actually be useful in this particular niche in the game. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit the like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit the subscribe button down below if you are enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.